Hey everybody, it's video 9 of Master Your Triggers, Master Your Life. And I just want to say thank you to everybody right now at the get-go for all of your beautiful support and comments and, people messaging me saying, waiting for the next video, and that really warms my heart, so thank you so much. Today I'm going to share a really big trigger that happened to me recently. It was just like a month ago, a little bit more, a month and a week ago. And I got a phone call from the Canadian Revenue people, and they wanted to audit me. And I was paralyzed in fear. You ever been so afraid that you feel that feeling down your spine, and it's like all the worst case scenarios just jump at you all at once? Well, that's what happened to me. And I do my books right, and I'm chaotic, granted, for sure, but I make sure I do everything right. But this fear was beyond that. It wasn't about that. This trigger wasn't really about that. It accessed the subterranean trauma level of something that happened to me many years ago in my 20s when I was living in Europe. I was living in Switzerland, and I had applied for a visa after having been away for a few months in Thailand, like I'd been doing for many years. I had my apartment, I'd maintained it and everything, and paid for it while I was away. And I went back and I got another job for another season, and I applied for the visa, and I was waiting for the visa, and it took a lot longer than normal. So I phoned the foreigner police. I phoned them. And I said, hey, my employer needs me to work. I need to work. I'm running out of money. And is there anything more that you need from me so that we can move the visa process forward? Or can you give me an idea when my visa will be there? And they said, oh, where are you? I said, oh, I'm here. And they said, oh, well, why don't you come see us? And so I went down there the Monday, so that was a Friday, and I went in there and I handed them my passport. I said, hi, I called you guys on Friday about my visa. They snatched the passport out of my hand aggressively, and they said, you have 24 hours to leave the country. According to this and this law, you're supposed to be waiting for the answer of your visa in another country. And since you've been here for 4 years, you should already know that. Like, as if I knew that, I would call them. As if I would walk into their place if I knew that. So it was an innocent mistake. I had always stayed in the country. Nobody had told me different, but I left to pick up the visa. That's what I had done all those years, and nobody had said anything. So I genuinely, it was an innocent mistake. So I lost everything that I built up in close to 4 years in 24 hours. I had to leave my apartment behind. I had no money. I had friends like the person I bought my organic food from, her shop, she gave me money. Another friend paid for my rent. Another friend gave me money to go across the border. And the police wanted to charge me a fine. And I said, I have no money. I said, you're going to have to put me in jail. I can't pay anything. I don't even have money to leave the country at this moment, right? So they said, okay, we'll just give this piece of paper up in 24 hours at the border. And so you can only imagine my whole body, like the trembling. And that same sensation came to me when I got that call. It was no different. The biology of trauma. It's just like everything, fight or flight in me, of warning, of danger. You might have made an innocent mistake. And what if an innocent mistake gets you in trouble? What if you lose everything? What if everything you've built? It was and it was irrational, and I could see that. So I was observing the trigger, but I couldn't change my biology, except for I kept breathing, and I was like, okay, this is huge. Where is this taking me? Where am I going? And I just breathed through it. And I'm like, how am I going to make it through this month if I don't get a hold on this? So an hour and a half later, I shifted gear. I went through a lot of stuff. I was processing, I was journaling, I was writing my feelings, I was connecting back to my past and sort of doing what I do to help rewire my nervous system. And then I switched gear and I went into creation mode. And it's so cool. That was the most creative month I've had in a long time. I created my own oracle cards that night. I spent like 9 hours. I developed my own oracle cards. They're going to be sent to the printers soon. My affirmation cards. This one is, I am constantly evolving. I embrace the journey of becoming the highest expression of myself. So I made 48 cards that night. I stayed on my computer and I was just like making affirmations, and this is a beautiful picture of a rose that I have a rose bush that I always say hello to when I drop my son off to school in the city. And this rose head had just fallen off completely, no stem. And I brought it with me. I thought, well, I brought it home. I thought maybe it'll still, I don't know if it can survive without a stem, but I'm going to see. And it blossomed completely and for another 2 weeks, even without a stem. So that rose became a symbol for me of our ability to, you know, even when it feels like we're all broken, there's still our soul, that we have a capacity that we can still absorb light, we can still grow and bloom, right? And so I use that as the image on the cards as to immortalize that beautiful rose and that teaching. And then I created another branch for my business because I'm only in the city part-time. And so when I'm there, I'm not working. And then I had this idea one day in a cafe. I went, maybe I should start a business, and I called it Coffee Chat Cafe. So where, you know, people go and they talk about their problems in coffee houses all the time. And I thought, well, hey, what about, you know, I'd overheard a conversation like, well, that advice is not really that great. And I went, oh, that could be a cool idea. And so I built a website in 2 days. I designed the flyer, the business cards, you name it. I started it. And so that was incredible. And then I published another mini book with all my different writings. I write a lot of articles, spiritually empowering, and, you know, articles about trauma and growing and healing and all that. And people have been telling me for a long time, including my father, why don't you put it all together in a book? So I did that in that month as well. And so that trigger, which could have really, I mean, that was the mother of all triggers for me. That could have ripped me under like an alligator and tenderized me on the logs, and I would have been all beat up. So I used it to create and learn and to, you know, to work through that. And then the day of the person coming to my home, because they came to my home to audit, they want to see my computer and everything, right? They want to look at all my data. And that day, I was already so much, I was like, okay, it's whatever it is, if I make a mistake or whatever, I still had a little bit of nervousness, but not as much. And I was able to regulate myself. And then she turned out to be this really lovely, beautiful being, and I did everything good. Yay! I was worried because I know I can be chaotic. And so that's where the fear comes, like, oh my God, what if I make an innocent mistake and I'm going to have big trouble or something like that. So it all turned good. But the thing is I can only imagine if I hadn't used my trigger to heal and to grow and to sort of help it to unwind that old trauma, because that's what our triggers are asking for. Our triggers are showing us there is a wound up pain and a trauma in us that needs unwinding, it needs witnessing, it needs movement. So if I hadn't had that knowledge, if I hadn't done that, if I hadn't used it to be creative, that day when the person came, I might have been so full of fear that that would have been misread as well, right? And it would have created who knows what. So I thought I'd give that as a very recent example, because no matter how much I've healed, I've never been in a circumstance where that specific trigger was activated. It's an authority trigger, but it's not only that. I realized I had these beliefs. If I make even an innocent mistake, it means trouble. And I realized that that actually went further back into my childhood too. So that big trigger was actually feeding into other stuff as well. So I was able to excavate a whole bunch of amazing knowledge and wisdom about myself. And I was able to rewire my nervous system. So this is just another example. And it's recent, you know, and this can happen. I'm already a real master of my triggers. I know how to direct them when they happen, right? But even that, we have so many layers and levels to our triggers too, right? Sometimes we've gone through 5 layers and we think we're done. But there's level 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then the mega load, 11, right? So it's important to hold kindness and love with ourselves with that too, because yeah, triggers are a part of our biology. They're a part of what's going to happen as long as we're alive. It's going to happen. But what matters is when I can master my own biology in my mind, and it's not suppressing, it's like I let myself feel. I cried. Oh my God, I bawled out tears that I wasn't able to cry back then because I just had to survive. You know, and that's when I ended up in Germany, and that's when I ended up in the narcissistic relationship. So my world that I'd mentioned in another video, right? So my world had been already destabilized. And so that's why he was the perfect person to keep like bringing me into the reflection of where I didn't love myself so that I could finally love myself, right? And I mean, it's not okay, narcissistic abuse, but again, we were a perfect match. You know, my vulnerability and my low self-esteem matched what he needed for him to survive in his world too. So yeah, so anyways, there we go. I hope this is useful. And just my suggestion is, you know, breathe, create, redirect. Triggers are just there to help us, really, when we know how to work with them. If we don't know how to work with them, they destroy us. And they destroy our relationships. They, you know, I've said that in the first video, they destroy even our creativity. Even if we have an inner trigger where we're judging ourselves or our self-worth in that, it can interrupt the creations that our soul is here to create. It can interrupt our dreams. It's so important. And it can break, yeah, it can break everything. So mastering your triggers, for me, that is the key life skill that is applicable in every area of life. And when we have that, then we'll always be able to be like Bruce Lee, like water. We'll be able to find our way. We'll be able to adapt, you know, innovate, resolve, heal, clear, integrate, and all that good stuff, so that we can be more embodied and more confident and be here to be what we're here to be. You know, and give what we give, even just in the small moments of a smile to a stranger, to whatever that greater calling is that we have. So thank you, everybody, and that's it for now. And I'm gonna just give you a little view here too. I didn't do it yesterday because I was already on the view, right, on the view of the beach set. So, but thank you so much, and adios. Have a good night. And here we are. This is this is the creek that runs through our beautiful place. And it's wobbly on this thing here. Yeah, there we go. And there we go. So thank you guys. Have a good night. And till tomorrow. Video 10. It's almost over. Unbelievable. Bye.